What are the best low-level magic items in Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Which ones are they? And if you find the right one, will you two become an item? You know, because it's like a magic item, because love is magic or whatever. Okay, it was a rubbish pun. Let's just get on with the video. This is the Dominomicon, authored and hosted by me, Dominic. The Dominomicon is dedicated to all nerdy things, with my current obsession being the TTRPG Pathfinder 2nd Edition. In this video chapter, I'm going to go over what I believe are the best low-level magic items in Pathfinder 2e. This system has approximately 976 quadspillion magic items, and wading through the good and bad ones is tough even if you're a grizzled veteran of PF2e. So whether you're new or thousands of years old like me, or at least I feel that way, hopefully this video chapter will showcase an item or two that you've never seen in this behemoth of a TTRPG. As ever, if you find this video chapter helpful or enjoyable, please give it a like or consider subscribing, or perhaps join as a member or become one of my patrons. Any and all of your support is appreciated. So let's hop aboard the loot train and get stuck in. Do the music thing. Before I go over my rules for this list, I do want to quickly mention item levels and what that means in PF2e, because this is something some of my players have questioned. The level of an item does not matter outside of the level of the settlement that you are in. So if the settlement that you're in is level 5, that means you can get up to level 5 items regardless of your level, so long as you can afford them. There are no level requirements for using or wearing items in this system. Righto, on to the rules for my list. As I already mentioned, there's quite a lot of magical items in PF2e, and I'm going to have to make a few restrictions to narrow down the ones that I'm going to be able to choose. Of course, all of these items are what I believe are the best ones, so take my opinion with a pinch of salty nerd tears. So I'll be listing items from 1 to 20, with the first 10 being level 1 and the second 9 being level 2. And these will be common and uncommon magic items only, no rare or unique. So I'm not going to be looking at consumable items because there's a lot of them, and they're relatively well known and quite understood. Like, we all know what a healing potion does, or I hope we do anyway. The clue is in the name, by the way, in case you're confused, and it's in the first word mostly. Hope that helps. But I will be including worn items like rings and the like, weapons and armor, held items, and generic gear. And as the title of this video chapter says, these will be magical items only. I would have loved to include consumables for whatever it's worth, but unfortunately that would have made like a 6-hour-long video or something. So I'll stick with the limitations for now, and perhaps at some point I'll do a top consumable items video chapter. Who knows? Some of these items are going to be quite useful, and some are just honestly kind of fun, or even just really cool items that exist within the system. Generally, I'll be leaning towards items that are useful, of course, but it's sometimes fun to get to mention some of the weirder things within this wonderful system. Plus, because of the way balancing works in PF2e, not a great deal of low-level magic items are all that mechanically good, and they tend to be more use case specific. And do note that most of these items are legacy content, which doesn't actually mean a lot, as legacy content is still fair game in remastered PF2e. I just thought I'd mention it. So now that the rules are out of the way, let's start at number 1. The Scrollstaff is a common 12 gold item held in one hand weighing 1 bulk, and it's a staff, except it has a scroll on it. Next magic item? Nah, fine. Effectively, this staff allows you to put a scroll on it, and you're able to cast that scroll from the staff itself, no extra hands needed. It can only hold 1 scroll at a time, but this lets you keep a spare spell ready without digging through your bag, which saves actions, and you don't need a free hand for material components either. Essentially, this saves you an action or two. Nothing amazing, but considering how cheap it is and how you can keep putting different scrolls in it, it could save you a lot of actions overall. Just bear in mind that you do need to be able to craft magical scrolls to be able to put them on there. Okay, next item. The Walking Cauldron is a 12 gold item with 4 bulk. Honestly, how is this item not uncommon? This is a common magical item, meaning that it would be somewhat common to see adventurers with this thing, and I've never had a single party that has ever used it. So this is basically as described. It's a cauldron that walks, and you can command it to follow you, and has a land speed of 25 feet. So if you're the type of person that uses cauldrons to craft, then this is a no-brainer, because it's not all that expensive, and it's a walking cauldron, and I cannot get over that because it's the silliest, strangest thing at such a low level. And it can carry up to 2 bulk of ingredients for potions, so it even counts as a little bit of a bulk saver. Now, the roleplay potential for this item and comedic factor for this item is kind of ridiculous. But before I get into that, let's just jump onto the next item. A predictable silver piece is 3 gold held in one hand with negligible bulk and is common. This is again kind of described in the name. As a single action, you can rub one side, and then when you flip it, it will always fall on the side that you've rubbed face up. So this can be used over and over again to cheat coin tosses, and if you don't rub it, it's just a normal silver coin and it just follows the normal laws of probability. Again, this is not an incredible item, but could be useful in quite a few situations like gambling and the like. And again, the roleplay potential is pretty high for this item, especially if no one figures out that it's a predictable relatable silver piece, although I imagine by me making this video there's going to be a lot more people who are aware of this item, so sorry not sorry to the people out there who had this trick going for so long. And moving on to... The Purifying Spoon comes in 3 different flavors, all held in one hand with negligible bulk and all common. You can have a teaspoon for 10 gold, tablespoon for 20, and a ladle for 32, and the size increases how much food or drink you can purify at once. So once a day for 2 actions, you can cast Cleanse Cuisine by simply stirring with this spoon, and this is the whole water into wine situation. So you can enhance any crappy food or any crappy drink to make it a gourmet treat, and it also removes toxins and contaminations from the food. So as far as I'm aware, you'll get some nasty swamp water or even seawater and turn it into wine by just stirring a spoon into it. Seriously, how awesome is that? If this thing existed in real life, every kitchen would have multiple. And the different sizes change how much food you can purify at once. So a teaspoon is 1 gallon, tablespoon is 8, and a ladle is 60. Honestly, considering this is not all that expensive and they're common items, it's just a phenomenal thing to have in a sort of real life scenario. And again, the roleplay potential for this is incredible. It will be pretty good for increasing diplomatic relations as well. Plus, if you suck at cooking, it won't seem like it anymore. Okay, next is... A Cantrip Deck comes in 2 versions, a 5-pack for 5 gold or a 24-pack for 20, both held in one hand with negligible bulk and both common. Essentially, this just enables you to have more cantrips available at any given time. So these are sort of consumable, but as you can get a big pack with 24 cards, I didn't see this as a one-use item, hence why I'm including it. Plus, they're incredibly cheap. Getting the full pack for 20 gold means you have 24 casts of cantrips. The action costs are the same for casting the cantrip as you would normally, though sadly you need to use the kinda bad DCs and spell attack modifiers from the cards. So if you're looking for a way to increase the cantrips you have available, this is the way to do it. Okay, next on the list. Now this is a common graft item, which means it's literally grafted onto your body. And this specific one is the lesser version, which costs 15 gold. This allows you to, once per day for 2 actions, flick spines in a 15-foot cone, dealing 1d8 piercing damage. And it's a basic reflex save with a DC 15. On a critical failure, the creature is also dazzled until the end of their next turn. Grafts are certainly strange, but being able to do this every single day is pretty cool. It's just a straight up tiny boost to your damage once per day. Plus, a 15-foot cone is pretty awesome, especially if you're a martial character, as martial characters kind of struggle to do area of effect damage, especially at the lower levels. This is actually kind of a way for a martial character to cast a spell, in inverted commas, because it's kind of like having a spell slot as it's once per day. I've barely looked at grafts, but after seeing this one, I'm definitely going to take a closer look in future. I guess the downside is that you're going to have spines literally grafted onto your body, which is kind of weird. But if this was real life and I had those grafted onto me, I can't really get any uglier, so that's a win, right? Up next, we have... The Ring of Sigils is common, costs 20 gold, and is a worn item. This gives you the ability to cast Sigil as an innate cantrip, meaning that anyone can cast this. And once every 10 minutes for 1 action, you can detect its general location, although if it's 5 miles away, it isn't going to work. This is really cool for getting to tag someone with a Sigil and then getting to follow them without needing to keep your eye on them. If you can manage to do this secretly, you've got a practical way of following someone without having to actually follow them. Again, the opportunities in which you can use this particular magic item are rather vast. It's pretty cool. Now, on to... The Rhythm Bone is held in one hand with light bulk and costs 8 gold and is uncommon. I absolutely love this item. It's effectively a sort of recorder, and while it cannot capture auditory effects, it can still capture a minute's worth of ambient sound, including speech, and then you can play it back to someone. And you have to give it a whack for it to activate or play, which is pretty funny. Again, it's not an unbelievably useful item, but could be good if you tried to get some incriminating evidence on someone, for example, or even just repeat someone's speech after they said some unsavory things. Or even better, wait for them behind a door, jump out at them and spook them so they wail, and then you can repeat that noise to drive them insane. Pretty funny with some cool use cases. Oh, and of course you can make distractions and stuff with it, I mean, obviously. Anyway, lining up next is... An Everlight Crystal is common, 15 gold, held in one hand with light bulk. This is just essentially a permanent torch. You could make the argument that you're allowed to wear this on your person with it active with no issue, and thus you would never need the light spell. Obviously, it's not all that useful to people who have dark vision, which tends to be quite a lot of ancestries in the system, but still for those who don't have it, having a permanent light spell affixed to them is pretty useful indeed. And it doesn't generate heat and requires no oxygen, so yeah, it's pretty useful for some people. Last for the level 1 items. The Ring of Discretion is a 15 gold worn common item. This one's quite simple. It magically conceals any armor and sheathed weapons, and that's about it. Now, there are ways to have people disbelieve how you look, but still this could be really good if you need to get into a place without looking like you're wearing weapons and or armor. And considering it only costs 15 gold, effectively the whole party could have this and then turn up to that posh noble gala without anyone realizing that you're fully kitted out and ready for murder time. And that's the end of the level 1 items. Moving on to the level 2 items where things get a little bit more interesting. Weapon potency runes cost 35 gold and are a must in this system, and there's no way I couldn't include them in this list. Inscribing this onto your weapon gives it a +1 item bonus, which means every attack roll you do with it has a +1 to it. And as we all know, every +1 matters. I'm not doing a thing this time. I'm also including the Hand Wraps of Mighty Blows here because they come with a +1 potency rune also for monks, etc. Definitely an essential item for everyone that uses a weapon. Advancing to... The Wondrous Figurine comes in multiple different flavors, and I'm also including the Pyrite Rat here because it's basically the same thing. And as this is level 2, I can only include the Onyx Dog here. This is a one-handed held item and costs 34 gold, and the rat costs 32. Both have light, bulk, and are common. So these are pretty cool items. You spend 2 actions and activate these small statues which turn into the animals referenced. Obviously, the Onyx Dog can make a dog, and the Pyrite Rat can make a rat, and you can command them, and they get a few little abilities and stuff. Honestly, they're really cool. The dog can only be activated once per week, and remains for 6 hours, but the rat can be used every day for 1 hour. They're pretty nifty, and there's lots of use cases for them. You could even have them used in combat as well, although the stats aren't going to be all that good for that. But it's still a possibility, and if they're slain, you just have to wait a week until they can be activated again. Nothing wrong with having a little magical pet, especially if you're desperate and lonely like I am. Hooray! On deck is... The Bottomless Stein is an uncommon 25 gold item that is light, bulk, and held in one hand. This is exactly as described. It is infinite alcohol. It specifically says that it's delicious ale, so it's actually literally delicious. Again, this is one of those items that if people knew about it, everyone would want to have. It does specifically say that it's impossible to transfer the ale or sell it or store it. It only seems to stay inside the stein. But still, this is just one of those items that is mostly for roleplay, but who cares? It's a bottomless stein. Do I need to say anymore? Up next, we have... The Stone of Encouragement is an uncommon light item held in one hand and costs 30 gold. This item is just kind of hilarious. Once per day, you can ask the stone for help with a task, and it'll give you a +1 item bonus to the first skill check you attempt within 1 minute. It specifically says that the stone will say things to you like, "You can do it," and "Let's go," which is hilarious to me that it talks to you and tells you that you're awesome and stuff. I feel like we all could do with something like that in real life, am I right? It's just one of those little fun items that actually does have some mechanical benefits. I really like the Stone of Encouragement. What do we have next? The Skittering Mask is a worn common item of 1 bulk that costs 30 gold. So the first time each day that you begin your turn unconscious and within 25 feet of an enemy, this thing will lift you up and step you 5 feet away. 5 feet might not be a lot, but it could potentially be enough to keep you out of range of an area of effect ability. Plus, it's a step, so it's not going to trigger any reactions. Just another one of those little items that could potentially save your life in a pinch. Plus, it's just kind of creepy and weird that this mask actually has little legs on it or whatever, and it moves you around weird, but I like it. It's like how I think of myself. Our next item is... The Hand of the Mage is a worn common item that costs 30 gold of light bulk. This allows you to cast Telekinetic Hand at will, which is quite useful. There is the remastered version, which instead costs 50 gold and gives you a +1 item bonus to thievery checks called the Charlatan's Glove. Sadly though, I cannot properly include it because it's level 3, whereas this legacy version is a level 2 item. Still, I think Telekinetic Hand is a very powerful and underused cantrip, hence why I included it in my top 10 list as a runner-up. Plus, who doesn't want telekinesis? And now on to... The Flask of Fellowship costs 25 gold, is a common item, and is light bulk held in 2 hands. So this is a rather large drinking flask, and if you share drinks from it with others, you get a +1 item bonus to your diplomacy check. So this is a straight up skill increase, so long as you're able to get people to drink from it. And when you do pour from this flask, it happens to be exactly what your target would like to drink at the time. Literally any drink you can think of. And that would make getting people to drink from it significantly easier, so much so that you don't actually have to trick anyone to do it. It'd just be, oh, try this drink that happens to be your favorite. It definitely will not make you easier to talk to or slightly manipulate and to give me the information that I want. This is one of those items that I'm actually glad doesn't exist in real life. Oh wait, it does. It's called alcohol. Oh dear. Nearing the end of the list, next item is... The Necklace of Knives is a worn 25 gold item. As often as you like, for one action you can pluck a miniature knife from the necklace and it grows to be a normal sized dagger. Made from stone, steel or wood, it fades away 1 round after it leaves your hand. This means that you can throw it at an enemy or stabby stab them with it. And these daggers, despite it being a necklace of knives, but whatever, are infinite. And it even specifies that the wooden daggers can be used to stake vampires. Quite a useful item indeed, especially for roguish types that like to throw daggers into those that would wrong you. The penultimate item is... A Glamorous Buckler is strapped to one hand, is light bulk, and costs 35 gold. While you have this raise, you're going to get a +1 item bonus to deception checks to feint, and once per day as a free action when you successfully feint, the target is dazzled for 1 round. Feint is a useful little action that you can do, and I highly recommend that melee players use it, hence why I mentioned it in my more basic skill actions video. You basically just do a deception check, and if you succeed, the enemy's off guard to your next attack, and obviously with this item, that makes that check a little bit easier, and you can potentially dazzle them once a day, which is pretty awesome. Of course, the downside is that it has to be on a buckler, and bucklers aren't amazingly good, but they can be very useful for certain builds like the Swashbuckler, the clue is in the name again, especially if you grab the Elegant Buckler feat. Plus, who doesn't want an item that is particularly glamorous, especially if you're literally the opposite of that in real life, like a certain someone whose voice you can hear right now. Okay, the final item on my list is... The Masquerade Scarf is a worn item that costs 30 gold. Once per day, you can cast a first rank illusory disguise on yourself. Again, this is one of those items with specific use cases, but it's particularly useful if one of those cases does come up. The illusory disguise spell is pretty good and allows you to hide your identity. You cannot impersonate a specific individual, but you can change how you look. Honestly, I always like items that give you ranked spells. It essentially saves you spell slots, or it gives martial characters the ability to use some spells, and that's never a bad thing, especially considering how limited spell slots are at the lower levels. Now, before I finish up, I'd be remiss to not mention scrolls, despite them being consumable, wands, and staves. I hate that word. You know what? I'm saying staffs from now on. It's technically a correct word, and I don't care that the PF2E books say staves. I hate that word with a fiery passion. No, I'm not weird, you're weird. Okay, fine, I'm weird. I'm really weird. It's fine, I'm over it. These are a great way to increase the amount of spells you can cast every single day and are practically essential for spellcasters. And they're not too expensive either, so definitely keep an eye out for them. Wands in particular are very easy to use and recharge every single day. Okay, that is the end of my top 20 low-level magical items. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I've mentioned a couple of items in there that even experienced players had not properly considered or even seen. There's definitely a couple in there that I hadn't seen until I started doing this list. Of course, this list was entirely my opinion, so I would like to hear yours in the comments. Are there any items I missed? Any particular ones that you would have in your list instead? And do you think I should carry on at some point and start looking into the higher level items? I think it would be really good to do the level 3 and level 4 items at some point, because they're kind of within reach of most low level characters, and they just get better and better as you get higher levels. As ever, if you found this video chapter helpful or enjoyable, please give it a like or consider subscribing, joining as a member, or becoming a patron. Links are all in the description as ever, and I really appreciate your support regardless. I'd like to give a shout out to my members and archivist Max Magnus 20019, Ozzy Smith, and Shard, and to my patron and archivist Clash. Thank you so much for the support. But for now, this is Dominic of the Dominimi Nomicom, wishing you a fond farewell, and until next time, goodbye.